where we explore identity in Microsoft Entra ID to understand common identity terms and how explain how they are relevant to Microsoft Cloud. We'll also be exploring common management tools within the identity data solution or identity solutions. I think also one of the goals is to also understand zero trust in the identity pillars, and also some available identity services within the Microsoft Cloud. I think Mr. Chinke is available now and ready for us for today and tomorrow as well, hopefully so. So thank you, Mr. Chinke, and everyone. Thank you for having your time to join us for today's session. Mr. Chinke, you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself, and let's get this started. Mr. Emmanuel, can you please start recording the session?
Oyimafu? Thank you. I've started recording the section. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Chinke, over to you, please, for the introduction.
Yeah, hello everyone. You're welcome to the session today. My name is Chinke Ojiji, as you've already heard. I'm a Microsoft 365 engineer with over 5 years experience administering Microsoft 365. I have worked with so many Microsoft partners, administering support for Microsoft 365 across all technologies: OneDrive, SharePoint, Exchange, Entra when it was Azure, Purview, and so on. So I've been in the mix at Microsoft Teams as well. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm a communications and collaboration certified engineer and Teams associate, as well as certified in cybersecurity from ISC2. So I'm here today to just introduce you into the Microsoft Entra ID. I will be sharing my screen, and I hope that this can be a conversation more like it, not just me talking, okay? Thank you very much, and please, during the training, kindly mute yourself. And the way this will go, we'll go for halfway through the session. We'll have a brief 5 minutes break, so you can just get water and so on and relax yourself. Yeah, Charles, please go ahead. Okay, all right.
I think Charles is muted. Let me see if I can unmute him.
I think he wanted to clap, but mistakenly raised his
Okay,
hand.
all right.
All right, guys, give me a moment. All right, kindly let me know when you can see my screen, please.
I can see your screen from my end. I don't know for the others, but I believe it should be good. Good. We have some thumbs up. Good.
All right, great. So we're going into identity in Microsoft Entra ID. I know the sessions have been going on for some time now, and I've been seeing all your posts on LinkedIn about the learnings that have been taken. It's pretty amazing. I applaud everyone here for taking the bold step to gain a new knowledge. It's very important. So in this session, what we are going into is identity and how it is the base of cloud in Microsoft 365. Every IT professional coming into the cloud, you need to understand what identity is, because identity is what will, at the end of the day, hold the data which you are going to be working with, right? And I hope that with this session, we are able to have knowledge to architect, implement, and secure identity solutions using zero trust principles, okay? So first, I'll set the stage by defining key identity concepts. Then we'll talk about the zero trust. And also, before I even go into that, I would also like to give a brief on Microsoft Entra because that's what we're using, right? I know a lot of you already know what Microsoft Entra is, but I would just want to make some clarifications so that you understand. Microsoft Entra is Microsoft's identity and access solution, right? It is not a replacement of the Azure Active Directory. Azure AD is like that's where it all started from, right? And it is a part of Microsoft Entra. Now, they brought Microsoft Entra to try and provide a solution platform mainly for identity and access management, while Azure AD deals with identity in a way, but more also like synchronization as well. It had the synchronization of the on-prem, but these days now, nobody is really using AD Connect. Everyone is using the Cloud Connect instead of AD Connect. We'll go more into that. I just wanted to give this brief into what Entra holds. Now, in Entra, you have the Azure Active Directory, you have the Entra permissions management. Yes, you can give permissions from within Entra as well as within the 365 Admin Center. And it has the Entra Verified ID, Entra Identity Governance, and Workload Identities as well. Now, we will come back to this slides some way into our class. So let's go back to this here. So also, after going into Zero Trust, we'll look at administering identities, different types of identity types, dig into how users authenticate and gain access to resources within the Microsoft Entra. And we'll also cover security, protecting identities, risk-based policies, auditing, and more. Then I'll walk you through how identities are managed on a large scale, users, groups, and hybrid scenarios as well. Then we'll wrap up with question and answers. So let's go into it. So when we talk about identity in a cloud environment, we mean like a username or an account. That is what an identity represents. It's like a digital representation of a person. It can also be a digital representation of an application or even a device. In Microsoft Entra ID, you deal with users, groups, a tenant, a directory. A tenant is, of course, your organization in the cloud. That's where the identities live. Now, the directory is like a container that holds those identities. They are not just abstract terms. So when you hear container, it is like you take these identities, where are they hosted, where are they held, right? That's what the container is. Now, think of identity as your ID card to go into your office. When you get to your office, right, you need to probably badge in with your ID card. That ID card is your identity. That's your identity. So you as an operator or as an admin of an organization, right? You have 50 users in your organization. You need to create identities for them because this is what they're going to use to access those resources. So as we said, it can be a user, it can be a group, right? It can be a device as well. Because some devices, for some organizations, most organizations, they join all their devices to their Entra ID, thereby giving those devices identities, making them easy to manage, making them easy to track, making them easy to protect as well within the organization. I hope I'm not moving too fast. Please do let me know.
No, it's
All
fine.
right. All right, great. So next, think of identity as your control plane. That is like a central hub that determines who can access what, when, and how you can access it. Now, unlike a data plane, right? You have a control plane where, unlike a data plane, the workloads run. The identity control plane doesn't host your business data, but it governs everything: applications, devices, and resources, right? While a data plane is more like, as seen here, like an operational layer where data, actual data access and resource consumption is occurring. It's occurring inside the data plane. But a control plane, these workloads run there, but it doesn't host that business data, which protects it in a way, right? But it governs how these things are accessed. Now, Entra ID is not just a directory, right? It's there for managing and securing access across your entire cloud. So when you create a user in 365 Admin Center, right? Automatically this user is under the Entra ID. Now there are certain parts of that user's account which you cannot manage from the 365 Admin Center. You have to manage it from the Entra ID. Now, when we're talking of this management, right, as a control plane, it is most preferred now by organizations rather than the data plane because, I mean, you're talking about ID verification, conditional access, MFA, all of this is managed from a control plane point of view, right? I know the link shared in the chat, the Microsoft documentation. I don't know if you guys have that, but I'll also put it in the chat. Just give me a moment so that you can as well follow with what I'm saying.
Yeah, let me share that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we have it on the chat. You can
okay. Sorry. Yeah. So this is just a visual showing you what we mean by control plane and how it is an architecture that manages everything within the Entra. Okay, I'm going to pause here because, as I said, I want this to be an interactive session, right? So please, if anyone has any questions, do you mind just raising your hand and our moderator will unmute you so that you can speak if you have any questions so far on what we've talked about identity as a control plane and our explanation of identity itself and the explanation of the resources and apps being managed within Entra. So does anyone have any questions so far about that? And also, I have the Entra ID here for us to just have a view and see what it is also like. So this is the Entra ID. And this is where everything is. Also, to show you the power of Entra ID, right? And your identity being your organization within the Entra ID. If for any reason you decide that you want to close down your tenant, for instance, right? Closure of your tenant must be done from Entra. It cannot be done. You go to
Charles, sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I said Charles. Ojiji, can you please share your screen in a focus, like so that it can zoom in for the viewers? I think they keep saying they can't see the screen more zoom. It seems it is looking far away for them. So when you try to share screen, I think you can share it in your presentation mode.
Okay. Let me see. I think it's just the zoom that is, because my screen is big. Is it better?
Okay. Okay, I don't know. For me, it's quite okay, but I think the viewers keep dropping the chat that they can't see the screen or something like that. But I think just continue. It seems it's okay now.
It's okay. It's better than before.
All right.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
My
Chinke.
screen is quite big. Yeah. We have someone's hand up. AGK. AGK, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, Chinke. Good evening.
Hi.
Good afternoon. My question pertains to the control. I'm pretty okay with Entra as a control plane, and Entra ID at itself. But my question is the data plane. Since Entra ID acts as the control, right? Like the metaphorical bodyguard or bouncer, right? What can you use or as an example or to explain the data plane?
So, good question. And our focus mostly, which was why I mentioned to you that control plane and data plane, two of them exist, but most organizations now are using control plane and not data plane. Why? Because control plane allows you to manage all resources, right? But in data plane, these interactions with resources take place inside of that plane, right? For instance, you're accessing a SharePoint document, email in Outlook. The data is inside there, right? You are able to see if you're accessing an email in Outlook, the data is the contents of the email, right? And it is stored on that application. But in Entra, right, your data is not in Entra using a control plane, right? That data is not available within there. So for instance, for a control plane, we are talking about users, we're talking about roles, we're talking about conditional access. These are all cloud resources, right? Though in the control plane, you're managing and configuring these resources, there's no actual data present in there. I don't know does that explain to you? Does that give you an idea with those examples, AGK?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
All right. But for this training, we're looking more on control plane because this is what organizations as an administrator, that is what you're going to be dealing with mostly. You're dealing with managing and governing these resources in Microsoft Entra. All right. Now, we're going to take a look next at Zero Trust. Okay. Zero Trust through identity. When you hear Zero Trust, what comes to your mind is don't trust anybody. Because that's what it means, as the word implies, zero trust. Now, we don't want you to assume insecurity, especially when it comes to identity. You need to always verify because whoever is authenticated, right? Whoever's identity is authenticated, you've exposed data, critical data to that identity. And if the identity is not who the person is supposed to be, then that means a breach has occurred. So Within Entra, when we say the zero trust architecture, we're talking about never trust, always verify. And it is not just always verify, continuous verification. That is the philosophy of zero trust. You don't inherently trust any request. Even inside your network, identity is crucial because that's the basis of giving access, of making access decisions. You can enforce least privilege, giving users just enough access, right, to access data and leverage other resources such as access policies that take into account risk signals, device compliance, and so on. But it's not just about who you are, but how safe your session is. Because even if you are the correct person and you've been granted access, right, while you're using those resources, zero trust means, oh, is this person safe using these resources? If this person clicks this link, what is going to happen, right? Are you going clicking of that link? Is it going to expose the organization? These are the things that we look at in zero trust. So continuous verification, least privilege, that is what zero trust is all about. And in the zero trust architecture, let me increase this. Okay. So in the zero trust architecture, while authenticating and authorizing an identity to gain access, right? We also want to make sure that we are giving the only the privilege that that identity needs. You would not want to give a user admin access for the user to access the admin center. First of all, in terms of governance, it is wrong. Second of all, in terms of them gaining access to the admin center, they are exposing their entire organization because bad actors can, if possible, gain access to that account and then they can also have access to the admin center. So these are all security layers, right? Meant to keep an admin aware. Now, how can you enforce? Please, can we mute ourselves, please? So how can we enforce zero trust within our organization? Through things like MFA, sign out sessions, not allowing a user session to stay more than a certain amount of time, right? Device inventory policies that monitor devices. You can also use conditional access, right? To determine where organizational resources are accessed from, right? You can set up policies, and those policies is not only where conditional access policy is not only about where the data is or the resources are accessed from, it's also making sure that when those resources are accessed, the identity is also protected. Now, most times you can set up a conditional access policy that will tell you, oh, do not allow any user log into the organization except they have MFA enabled or except they are authenticating through their Microsoft Authenticator app. Those are policies that you can set in place that are zero trust inclined as well. Give me a moment. I would like to show you this. I will also provide this PDF. I'll provide it in the chat as well, so not to worry. Sorry about the Zoom also. Just give me one moment. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so why do we need identity? We need identity to protect critical resources, right? Enable secure collaboration, and also cater to user life cycles, right? It's the cornerstone of secure access and ensures that only authorized people or applications can reach your resources. And identity also promotes collaboration. I mean, we're all here in this Teams meeting now because we have an identity, right? Within the Microsoft space, which is why you're able to join the meeting and so on. Now, even whether it be inside the organization or as a guest, you're accessing resources, right? And you have to have an identity. Now, guests or external users gain access through B2B scenarios, right? And from an organizational perspective, identity gives you control over the life cycle, how you can onboard users, offboard leavers, and manage permissions over time. Without identity, the doors to your organization are basically wide open, right? It's unmanaged. Anyone can get in, right? If there's no identity, it's not supposed to be that way. Now, when administering identities, when we say you're an administrator or you're a user administrator or a 365 administrator, what we just mean is managing those identities. You're the one that manages, creates those identities from creation to deletion. And with Entra ID, Entra Portal, PowerShell, even Graph API, you can automate tasks that will do all of these for you. Though we're not going to go into the PowerShell commands and so on, uh, that will be, I can probably touch it or I can get some commands and share with you much later on that, but that will be a different session, I suppose. So moving forward, as I said, we need identity to protect these critical resources and protect who accesses them, and collaboration and also user lifecycle. These are some of the reasons why we need identity. We all have test tenants created for us. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I would like to ask, I want it to be an interactive session, please, guys. So I'm not much of a parrot. I don't talk much. So please pardon me if I want us to have a conversation. So far, we have discussed about Entra ID, what is identity, and what is zero trust, the control plane, managing these resources. I would like someone to just volunteer to just give your own understanding of what you think these three things mean to you. Entra ID, identity, and zero trust. What you think these three things mean to you. If I could just take one or two people that can give their own understanding so that we not only look at it from my perspective, but also from your perspective, and then we can come to a middle ground. So please, can we have a volunteer? Just raise your hand, please. All right. Okay, we have two hands up, Charles and David. All right, so let's have Charles first, then we'll have David next. Charles, you can unmute yourself.
All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We can, though it's a bit faint. Check.
Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes, I can hear you.
The intro ID is the environment. For me, what I understand, the intro ID is the environment. Then the Zero trust is a continuous verification, as you rightly said, continuous verification. Then the last thing you said about that one.
Identity.
Identity. Okay, identity. Okay, like my name now that I'm using as Charles. That is my identity, and the other data that I'll have, my date of birth, every other thing that has to do with me personally. Those are my identity I used to. That's what I have to say.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. I'll get back to you. David, please, you can go ahead.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. So, from my own understanding, Entra ID is a suite of tools we can use for identity management. And I believe the goal of this managing the identity in high environments is to ensure CIA. And for that to be possible, we need certain metrics to be able to do that. And that's where identity comes in. The Entra ID is the tool or the platform we use to do that. But we need some metrics, and identity of an individual or a person provides us with that. Initially, you mentioned stuff like name. We could have things like social security number and the likes. And the last one, zero trust. At the end of the day, whatever we do, security is paramount. So zero trust enables us to always verify. It's a continuous means of verification or validation before granting access to our assets. So these three things work hand in hand at the end of the day to ensure that our environments are secure, ensuring that assets are confidential and integrity is upheld and they are always available. Thank you. So that's my understanding.
All right. Thank you very much to both Charles and David for your explanations. You both are correct. What I would just have added to both of you's explanation is when you're describing identity within the Entra ID, right? We're talking about one very key word is a digital representation of that person, right? Now, your when I was talking about your ID card, using it to badge in and all that being your identity, that's more outwardly. But now, if we're talking in terms of Entra ID, we're talking about that is your digital representation. That is your digital ID card. That's your digital user, right? That is used to give you access to the organization. So it's very important to understand that because your identity in Entra ID is not what is going to badge you into the office. That's your physical ID card that's going to do that, right? Not your identity in Entra. But for you to access your email when you get to work after you've badged in with your physical ID, then your digital ID comes in because when you want to log in to your email, if there's no digital representation of yourself, you're not going to have anything to log into. That's just the truth. So, yeah, but spot on. And I'm very glad that the zero trust is understood in terms of continuous verification, but also important to remember the least privilege access, giving access only where access is required. If access is not required, then that user should not be able to access that resource, right? Okay, so yeah, it's good that we all have that understanding. If we can if we can all ensure we're logged into our Entra ID, right? I would like us to give me a moment. Like us to do a little bit of classwork, not classwork per se, but just navigates to where these things are so we can also see what it looks like. So if you have a test tenant, please, you can log in. When you log into the 365 Admin Center, you can come to the left pane here and click on identity, and this will open. So when we're here, you can come to your users, and here you're going to have the users in the tenant showing up, and these are their identities, right? So I would like us to look into this, maybe pick one user. Let's see what is even inside this identity that we're talking about, right? What is it about? What can you do with a user's identity from the Entra Admin Center, Entra ID Admin Center? Now, this Entra ID Admin Center is, as I said, it controls everything within the organization, right? Any user you come here to create as a 365 admin is automatically appears here within the Entra ID for further management of that identity and its resources. Now, I'm more of a practical person, so I want us to see these things and know what it's like. So when you go into users and you select a user, you're able to see everything about that user. You see the user's basic information, user principal name, object ID, and when the user was created, and so on, right? And you can see the licenses. Sorry, if you want to speak, please can you raise your hand? Otherwise, can you just mute yourself? Thank you. All right, so this is the overview of what you have. The status, the sign-in logs, right? Now, when you are investigating a breach, for instance, these sign-in logs are very important, right? Now, there's sign-in logs and there's audit logs. Audit logs will show you what the user has done, right? This user, what resources did they access? What did they do? What activity did they do? And you can also filter it as well to what you want, the date, the last 1 month, last 7 days, last 24 hours, or a custom time interval. Now, you can see if a user has accessed SharePoint, for instance, if a user has accessed Teams, or an email, or if it's an admin, for instance. If an admin has created a user, you can see it in the audit logs here for that identity, for that user. We're looking at the user AB here, please. I hope we're all following.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, we are.
All right. So you can see what it was also initiated by here, meaning where was it done from? And for instance, here you can see Microsoft Office 365 portal, right? So that portal is talking about this portal here. This is what it's talking about. Now that is for the audit logs, and you can also download it as well. Now, for this audit logs, you're able to see last 7 days, right? And last 1 month, but also the license that you as an admin have determines also how far you can see. So I think there's a license that will allow you to view up to 90 days, because this gives you only 30 days. So there's a license that will give you up to 90 days. I believe that's the Enterprise Azure AD Premium 2. I believe that will allow you to review up to 90 days.
That's correct. If you have P2, Microsoft Entra ID P2, and I think you are an admin, you should be able to, on that custom, if you click on that custom, you should be able to see up to back up to 90 days. If you, that custom in time interval should allow you to set it up to 90 days. That is the maximum Microsoft can keep your records due to GDPR or global standard for data retention.
Thank you very much, Abdullahi. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
So, so that is it about audit logs. Now, don't feel any pressure. I'll tell you, don't feel any pressure. If what you're seeing now seems different, or maybe you're like, oh, when will I will tell you the questions I asked myself the first times that I saw most of these things, which is, where does this come into play? Where do I use it? How do I use it? Right? Don't put yourself under that pressure, I tell you, because everything we're training you about here, everything you're learning here in all of the sessions, not just this session, it might seem like, oh, you don't know what instance will come up that you might use this. Don't worry about that, because trust me, if you start worrying about it and saying, oh, you want to understand this and then do it exactly like this, Microsoft is always changing. If there's one thing you know Microsoft for, it is that it is always updated. So we don't want you to be like, copying it exactly word for word the way we're teaching you. No, we just need you to understand the concept. You know that there's a place in the Entra ID audit log, it's called, and what does it do? It tells you what a user has done within the organization. Once you understand that concept, even if they make any changes to audit logs or they move audit logs to a different location, you have understood the concept. That cannot be taken away from you. Bolaji, yes, you have a question? Go ahead, please.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So, can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I just wanted to know, like, what's the difference between this Microsoft Entra ID and Active Directory, because they look with the way the interface looks like, they do almost kind of the same thing, based on the fact that they give access to how you add identity and how you also remove identity, and also how you manage identity in an environment. So, like, what is different between the Microsoft ID, Entra ID, and the Active Directory?
Okay. Okay, you want to take that, Abdullahi, or
yes,
I wanted to...
go ahead, Chinke.
Okay, so as I said, right, when I started, I explained that it is not, Entra ID is not a replacement for Azure AD. Azure AD is part of Microsoft Entra ID, but Azure is like, that's where Azure AD is the father of identity. That's where it started from before Microsoft brought the Entra ID. So what you just see there's really not much difference, right? Apart from name. But both of them are used to manage identities. Both of them are used to authenticate, conditional access, and all of that, right? And the Azure AD is mostly used where you are syncing an on-premise environment, right? But in Entra ID, we have said, oh, you don't need to have Azure AD needed an Azure AD Connect for you to connect the cloud with the on-premise, right? And have your users, your synced users appear in your cloud, whereby you can manage to an extent to just an extent, because most of the management of those synced users will still occur on-premise in the on-prem Active Directory, right? While in Entra ID, they've introduced the cloud sync, whereby you don't need to have an AD Connect to synchronize your on-prem with the cloud. With the cloud sync, all you just need to do is to have the credentials, right, of the administrator on-prem, and you can initiate a synchronization, and those users from your on-prem will appear in the cloud as synced users. Now, this is just one, right, example of what the difference between these two are. Okay. Abdullahi, can you go ahead, please, and give your own explanation, and then guys, just give me a minute, please.
Thank you very much, Chinke. So what Chinke was explaining to you in more detail, I was also typing for some people that may be having issue listening quite well. So the question was, what was the difference between Active Directory and Microsoft Entra ID? And I think Chinke has already explained what Azure Active Directory is and what Microsoft Entra ID is. Maybe what you guys need to understand is when we are talking Microsoft Entra ID, we are talking about cloud, like where a solution where we manage cloud identities. And Chinke has already listed all the cloud identities possible you should know. He even cited an example of on-premise or physical identities as well. Now, Active Directory, that was the legacy identity directory or solution. We still have it on premises, on servers, on premise, or in your environment, physical environment, or in your offices. We still use, some companies or services still use Active Directory, that is AD. And in Active Directory, we normally utilize OUs, which is the organizational units, and directories, and forests. So all these are within the on-premise Active Directory. We still utilize users and groups, but those concepts have been borrowed into the cloud identity space. Now, let's come back to the cloud, since our training is focused on Microsoft Entra ID, which is a cloud solution, cloud identity solution for Microsoft. Microsoft Entra ID is not like an identity itself, like it is a portal or a suite of collection of all Microsoft identity solutions where you can manage Microsoft identity solution. What are your identities in the cloud? Users, groups, workload, which is devices, and I think those are mostly the identities we utilize. Yeah, you can also come across service principal and manage identities, but let's not go deep there and confuse it, since we are doing a basic beginner level bootcamp now. Maybe when you finally build your foundation, you understand what I'm talking about, service principals and manage identities. But for now, just understand when we talk about identities, we're talking about users and groups is just collection of users, like a bucket where you put some certain specific users so that you can give them some certain privilege or identities or privilege or permissions or access. Well, devices is, as we know, our phones, our laptops, our gadgets in the office that are not manageable. They are just there to satisfy some certain functionality. So they need identity to connect to our office or to connect to some services that we are isolated, and they need access control. So just know it that Microsoft Entra ID is just a solution. Then we have Azure AD, which is like the counterpart of the on-premise Active Directory, which is also the cloud identities, which I already mentioned examples. So let's not overbeat it. I already typed in there, and based on my explanation, hope I'm not too fast, because I'm fond of talking very fast. So hope you are able to grab and understand the difference between Active Directory, Microsoft Entra ID solution itself, and then the Azure Active Directory, which is now Entra ID. Microsoft Entra ID Active Directory. Yeah, it's still have Active Directory in it, but it's Entra ID now. Entra ID Active Directory. So there are three concepts or three terms there. Hope I didn't overbeat it. Chinke, go ahead.
It's all right. It's all right. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you. Sorry about that. My battery went down. So this let's not, as I said, let's not give ourselves too much thought on what you need to have is an understanding of the concepts, as I said, right? Be it Entra, be it Azure, you know what an identity is. So when you see an identity, when you're asked to probe an identity and so on, be it in the cloud, be it in the on-premise, be it anywhere, right? What we want you to have is a basic understanding of the concept, because once you have that concept, technology will always change, it will always improve. And that is improving. That concept is your core foundation, which will help you in understanding identity anywhere it is. So please don't overbeat it. Okay. Now, let's go back to this. So we're looking at, or we've looked at audit logs. We're looking at an identity, and oh, sorry, I'm not sharing my screen. Sorry. Back to that. Okay. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes.
All right. So we're looking at an identity in Entra, and what are the things that we can see as an admin, right? We looked at audit logs. We've looked at audit logs. We've explained what the audit logs will do. Also, I wanted to come here and show you this. So this is the overview, right? We've discussed that. If you come here into monitoring now, what you can do from here, how many of us, I believe we have heard of security default as well, right? Ife Oluwa, is that a hand for now or from before? If you have a question, you can unmute yourself. Ife Oluwa, do you want to say something? We can't hear you if you're speaking. Okay, all right. So this monitoring is more like it's for the sign-in logs, which we will get to in this middle pane here. But what I was asking was if we've heard of security defaults. Now, security default is Microsoft's own way of protecting its users. Okay, Ifeoluwa, you can go ahead. Sorry.
So I'm trying to log into my Microsoft Entra ID, but it's not working. I don't know how to do it.
Okay, so first things first, what is the error you're getting?
Like he's not logging in.
What is the error you're receiving? What does it show on the screen when you put in your email to log in?
He's asking for school email, and I don't have a school email or a work email.
It seems you have not created one before, right? You don't have one existing.
Yes, sir.
So
yes,
what
exactly.
Chinke is talking about is for it's for the trainees here who already created their Entra ID tenant and they were able to do some. Exactly. So
yeah,
you can do that during this or later. You just watch the video how to do it. We have some videos on the YouTube in the community YouTube channel where you can watch and see how you can do it. If you don't know how to do it, just ask somebody will share that with you in the WhatsApp group.
So I know we created accounts. We created test accounts for members of the community. So you can always reach out that you don't have a test account, and a test account will be created for you. So when you get that test account and you log in, you're coming to this admin center here, and you will see the identity admin center that will take you to Entra here, and you can always watch this video later on. Sorry about that, guys. We need to make sure everyone is following and everyone is carried along. Okay, so back to the identity here. We came to overview, and if you click on properties here, I was talking about security defaults and what security default is. So when you create a tenant, a Microsoft 365 organization, by default, right, you have a security default turned on. Now, that security default is what prompts users. Any identity you create Mr. A, you create Mr. B, or Mr. C. Any identity you create after you've created that organization will be prompted to set up an authentication method to authenticate their identity. Now, security default only allows you to authenticate using the Microsoft Authenticator app. Now, it doesn't allow you to do the authentication using a phone number or an email. No, by default, you have to set up the app for a security default. So depending on your administrator or the organization and their policies, right? You can say this is where you find that, sorry. Come over to overview, and you know how in the user we had overview, monitoring, and properties. If you come to overview here, you have properties here as well, right? And this is where you find the security default. So you can manage it here. You can enable or disable it depending on the policies in your organization. And once you do that, your users will not be asked to to set up the Authenticator app, right? It is not recommended for you to disable it, of course, because Microsoft wants all your users to be protected, right? But some organizations may not want their users to use the Authenticator app just yet, right? It might be a matter of user education or anything like that, right? But this is where you control that setting. So if you're an admin and you see the organization is telling you, oh, the users are saying they're always being prompted to set up authentication app, and let's say it's a new organization, a new tenant that you just created, right? And you're still in the phase of educating the users, you might decide to disable it from here. Now, disabling it from here does not mean that you cannot still protect that organization, right? You can, because this security default covers for the entire organization, right? If it's turned on, the entire organization is affected. If it's turned off, the entire organization is affected. Now, when you turn off security default, you can still go and enable the multi-factor authentication individually now per user. So look at security default more like an MFA, but an org-wide MFA, while your traditional MFA is a per user MFA, right? I hope we're all following, please. Okay, so back to our identity. So we've looked at audit logs, look at sign-in logs now. right? We're talking about sign-in logs here when I was showing you in the overview. Monitoring. You can use this to monitor a user to know when a user signed in, where the user signed in from, the IP address, if conditional access was enabled, and then the authentication requirements as well. So this is a go-to for any security person, right? When you hear of a breach or anything, the first thing you go, let's say they tell you a user was compromised, you want to go as an administrator to the Entra ID admin to go and look at that identity that was compromised and see what the sign-in composition was for that identity within that time period, right? Now, you also have the same requirements as the audit logs here. I think for sign-in logs, you can also do 90 days with an Entra ID P2 subscription as well for you to see more. Now, they also have, give me a moment. Sorry, give me a moment. All right. So we also, as I said, we can see the IP address, right, of the sign-in here. So if there has been a breach, for instance, you can see, well, just for laughs, but as a support person, right, I've encountered situations whereby an admin has complained about compromise, an account compromise, and we come to look at the identity here, and we go to the sign-in logs, and we check the IP address and location, and maybe this is a tenant that is in the US, for instance, and we see sign-in location showing as Lagos, Nigeria. No pun intended, guys. Like, we are the best Nigerians, but still on still, it is what it is, right? You go in there, you see location Lagos, Nigeria. Of course, that's identity, that digital representation of that person. That person has not been to Nigeria, has no connections in Nigeria, but we are seeing here a sign-in log from Nigeria that confirms that that account has been breached, right? Also, I don't know if it has been discussed previously, but I'll just give you briefly. What you can do in that situation is to immediately block sign in so that no one is able to access that identity, right? That is the protective measure that you take. You block sign in first, then reset the user's password, make sure multi-factor authentication is enabled, sign out of all sessions. I'll just briefly show you guys that here. So sign out of all sessions in the 365 admin center. After you have blocked the sign in here, you've seen the location, you've confirmed that there's a breach from here. You come over to the 365 admin center and you sign out of all sessions. When you click on the affected user here, you'll see sign out here and you can sign out of all sessions. This is where you can also block sign in and reset the user's password. And you can also confirm that multi-factor authentication is enabled from here. And you can also check if your security default is turned on to ensure that that user is well protected after that kind of breach. Now, to take it a notch further, what you can do with the information that you get from here, you have the IP address showing, the IP address of the illegal sign in, right? You can take that IP address and you might as well proceed to block the IP address. Sorry, let's take a pause. Maybe I'm saying too many things. We have Wachuku here with a question. Wachuku, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, please, can you repeat what you said, the process you mentioned again? I was trying to follow you, but I lost it at some point, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. So we're looking at sign-in logs for an identity, right? And I'm just trying to show you an example of some ways it can be used, right? Which is you come into the sign-in logs. The sign-in logs is showing you, these are the details of what is showing you for an identity. It's showing you the dates, it's showing you the user, it's showing you the application that was accessed, status. If there's a sign-in error, it will show you the error code, the IP address where the sign-in occurred from, and the location, the place where it occurred from, and if there's any conditional access, policy, agent type, and authentication requirements. Now, these are the details. And if, for instance, you come here and you see that there is a location where you are confident and 100% sure that that user was never at that location, then your suspicion of a breach or a compromise of that account is indeed correct. And what actions you should take next, right, from a security perspective, is what I am explaining to you, because we're looking at identity and Entra ID, right? And if you're looking at an identity or you're managing an identity and there's a compromise of that identity, what are the things that you should do? Once you have confirmed this here, what you need to do is to come back here to the 365 admin center, locate the same identity, and first block the sign-in of that user, right? Now, you're blocking the sign-in to prevent these bad actors from continuing to access that identity. That's why you're blocking the sign-in. And that's in the M365 admin center. You have located that the user was compromised. You've confirmed it using the sign-in logs in Entra, and you come here and you block sign-in. After blocking sign-in, you sign out of all sessions. In the identity here, where you click on the user, you block sign in. Under account, you will see sign out. Sign this user out of all Microsoft 365 sessions. So wherever that user's account has been signed in, be it on a mobile phone, be it on an SMTP application, mail application, be it on an Outlook application, anywhere, computer or mobile, it will be signed out once you click on the sign out of all sessions. Now, doing that, what it has done is you have removed the session that the bad actors were signed into. And because you have blocked sign in, they are unable to sign back in. So first things first, you are trying to recover that account. Now, after that remediation, the next step will be to further ensure that that user is protected. Now, most likely, in most cases, most compromised cases, you find out that the user does not have or use multi-factor authentication. So you check multi-factor authentication here at the bottom right of your screen here. You can check that and confirm if the user has MFA enabled. And you can also, Femi, just give me 1 minute. I'll be with you shortly. And you can also check that the security default, which I showed us from overview here, is also whether it's enabled to protect the organization or it is disabled. All right. Yeah, Femi, you can go ahead with your question, please.
Thank you, Chinke. One of my questions you already answered from what from the previous explanation now. Now, my second question is, do we have to go through this step the exact way you've done it? For example, what if probably I was under pressure when it happened, my manager was shouting, blah, 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 and instead of me to block signing first, instead of me to block signing first, or instead of me to, what's it called? Go through the first step like you did. I went to reset the password first. Then I now blocked all signing. Then started doing every last thing. Does it matter that I have to do it the same way you've done it, or any of the ways? There's no issue.
Okay,
with it?
I'll give you a scenario and then it is left to your discretion. As you said, it is depending on the pressure, but as a security administrator or as an M365 administrator in general, you cannot but always have pressure. There will always be pressure because as an admin, yeah, for you to come into here to try and recover something, that means a problem has been highlighted, right? And that problem that was highlighted most likely is operation inclined, right? So you don't want to waste the user's time, productivity, and all of that. So you want to try and resolve as quickly as possible. So there will always be that pressure. But having pressure doesn't mean that we do not want a situation whereby the same issue that occurred comes back to occur again in the same way. That will count against you in your KPI, right? It will count against you. We don't want that. Now, that's one. That's the discretion part. Now, two, the reason why I say you should block sign in first, right? Blocking sign in first means that after you have signed out of all sessions for that user, if these bad actors, because the same way you are trying to recover, those people too are not sleeping. They are trying to make sure that they have access to that user no matter what you're doing, right? So if you sign out of all sessions, best believe they're going to try and sign in again almost immediately if they are even monitoring it as you're doing it, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And when they try to sign in again, they are unable to sign in because you've blocked signing.
Yeah.
So that compromise is not coming back again. Now, but if you say, oh, you want to go and reset password first, you reset the password first. You don't know what application these guys are using. You don't know if most times we have sessions logged in, you reset the password, it's not going to ask that session to re-authenticate until almost immediately. It might take a little while. It might take maybe 2 to 4 hours or so before it propagates for it to ask that session to sign in again with the new password. And even 1 minute is enough to cause harm, to lose millions of dollars. It's possible. So blocking the sign in is always the best first step to take. It's always the best first step.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. I hope I answered that question for you. And
no,
Wachuku, I hope
you
you're
killed the
able
question.
to catch up. Thank you.
Yeah, I was able to catch up. You stopped at the point where you said having blocked the having signed out of all sessions, then you move to recover the account. But it's like you didn't continue with recovering the account.
Okay, so when I say after signing out of all sessions, that you've done the remediation, you've blocked sign in, you've signed out of all sessions, you can go ahead and reset the user's password, right? Now, after that, you want to also ensure that that user is better protected than they were before the compromise. And in doing that, two things you can check. You can check the security defaults of your organization, right? Organization wide, or you can check the multi-factor authentication just for that user to ensure that it's enabled and enforced. Okay. So after you have done all of that, then you can now unblock the sign in and ask the user to sign in. And then you can further monitor, because we're talking about continuous verification here, right? Zero trust. You've done everything, but we don't want to take anything for granted. We want to continually make sure that this user is the correct user that is signing in. So you can come back here and still take a look at the sign-in logs to ensure that it is actually the user that is signing in. Bolaji, you have a question?
Yeah, well done. So I wanted to know, since we are using IP, what if the user was actually using a VPN to log in? You know, if you're using a VPN now, the IP can change, and you might just think that, the location will actually change also, and that can count as like an impossible travel. So in that instance, how would you know that, okay, this person is not using a VPN since the location changed and use the scenarios of the location?
So, as I said, right, when you are looking at these sign-in logs, you know the identity of the person that you are looking at, right? You know that person's location, you know where the person is supposed to be working from, right? And you're also seeing here if there's any conditional access that restricts the person. If there's no conditional access that restricts that person, and then you see, let's say you see Miami, Florida, Miami, Florida, Miami, Florida, then you see Pretoria, South Africa, right? And the time frame within the Miami, Florida and the Pretoria, South Africa is so short that you know obviously that person cannot travel from Miami to South Africa in that short a time, right? That is suspicious. You are looking into it. Now, that South Africa you're seeing, if the bad actors are using a VPN, right, it's going to show that IP address that their VPN is giving them. Now, you can go ahead and block that IP address. I will show you guys how to block it as well. You can go ahead and block the IP address, and after blocking it, you are aware already that there has been either a compromise or an attempt at compromise, right? So your next action is it will show you here the status if that sign in was successful or not, right? In status. Sorry, there's no log here in mine, but as I said, those of you that have test tenants, you might as well navigate and check for your user that you frequently use. Let me see if I have any user here. This might not have any either. Yeah. Sorry, give me a moment. I'm trying to look for a user here that has sign in history. Let's see.
Yeah, well, sorry, Chinke. It seems I asked the admins they said there was no test users created. It's just the mentees creating their own tenant from Microsoft.
From scratch. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just
right.
for clarity. So for those that doesn't have their tenant for practice, they can go ahead and follow how the others mentees have done it to create their own their own tenant for practice. But we don't have any tenant that we created test users for the mentees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Abdullahi. So as I was saying, sorry, I don't have anyone that has any history here that I can show you, but the status here will show you if that sign-in was successful or not, right? And if the status is successful for the South Africa login, that means that account has been compromised. Now, when you find that out and you block the South Africa IP address, you take the steps which we talked about to remediate the account, right, from compromise. And then if these guys are coming back again, they change VPN now, change to a different IP, because you have already taken these steps, right? You've enabled MFA, you have reset the user's password. They won't have that easy access that they had before. So even if you now see it here, right? Maybe you might see, instead of South Africa now, you might see Zimbabwe, right? And what will be in the status at that point in time after you've enabled these security measures will be unsuccessful, right? You cannot stop them from trying. So will it appear here if they try to sign in? Yes. What matters most is the status. Is it successful or unsuccessful? And what actions you took, right, afterwards to remediate that. I hope that answered your question.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much.
Balaji. All right, great. We have to, let's take Richard. Richard, can you ask your question? Richard, we can't hear you. You're muted. Okay, can we go over to Ifeoluwa?
Sir, can I use a Tor browser for it?
Tor browser to do what? To create your tenant?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you can create your tenants with any browser. What matters is just going to office.com and signing up, okay? For a
Okay,
work or
sir.
school account. Yeah. All right.
Okay, sir. Okay.
We had Charles. So I'll take Charles and I'll take Tolu. Then we'll go. Oh, sorry. There's still Baba Femi. Have I answered your question or no?
No, you've not answered my question.
Okay. We'll take Charles, Tolu, and Baba Femi, and then we'll go on a brief 5 minutes break. Then we'll come back and round up. Okay. All right.
All right. Okay. Go ahead.
Yes,
Go ahead.
Charles, go ahead.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, in line with what you are saying, what you are explaining about the bad actors attempting to log in. So if the person who is an insider in the company who is working there is the one that is doing this, giving the bad actor access to login, how can you be able to solve that kind of complex situation?
So that is why we are talking about user education, one, right? And two, your monitoring capabilities. Now, this scenario you are given now is a scenario whereby the employee of the organization is the one allowing bad actors to make use of that employee's account to carry out whatever, right? Now, you, because you are the admin and you are monitoring what is going on, right? You are able to see that there's a sign-in issue here. When we come back from the break, you can set up alert policies, right? That will show you, that will alert you on discrepancies in sign-in locations, or you can set up a conditional access in your organization, right? But for instance, none of these things are set up, right? And this person is just giving access to the bad actors. Now, when these bad actors gain access to that user's account, what are the things they're able to do? They can use that account to send out spam emails, right? Or they can send out critical emails to certain people from that user's account, right? So how will it be flagged? It can be flagged by the number of emails they are sending, because Microsoft 365 has sending limits, right? Now, if they send above the limits, it's going to block the account from being able to send further emails. And this user who lets people use his account will not be able to send any emails again and will reach out to you, which will in turn prompt you to check, okay, why is this user not able to send emails again? You'll go check the message trace. You'll see that the message trace will tell you most likely that this user has been sending above the limits, right? Now, once you've seen that the user is sending above the limits, one of the first things you check is, why is this user sending above the limits? You come, you check the sign-in logs, you also inquire from the user, are you sending so and so this number of emails per minute? The user will either tell you yes or no. If the user tells you yes, then you as an admin, you probe deeper by coming into the sign-in logs, checking the sign-in logs, going to check that user's sending frequency, check the message trace, change their sent. Most times when you are using SMTP to send those emails, it's not going to register in the sent of the user. Now, what do I mean by SMTP? These bad actors, they're not just going to go to your browser, log in, and start sending thousands of emails. They have an application that is called an SMTP mailer, whereby they have the email they want to send, and then they have the email addresses and they put it in there, and that SMT mailer automatically sends to all those email addresses. Now, you're not going to see that in the sent items, right? So if a user is telling you that they are sending this number of sent emails, and you go to their sent items to check, you do a message trace for emails sent by them, and you don't see that number of emails, that means somebody's lying, right? So it's all about you as the admin being able to discern and being able to know when to investigate further or not. That's how you can catch someone in that kind of scenario. Okay. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, let's quickly take Tolu.
Sorry, good evening. I've already seen the answer to my question. I wanted to ask, where can I find managed security defaults? I've been looking for it for like 5 minutes now, but I found it already.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Amazing.
Yes.
Nice.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Okay, can we have Baba Femi?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for the insightful teaching so far. My question is, I understand the fact that the approaches you take when you discover that a threat actor is at work and all. But in a situation whereby an employee is working remotely, and then during working hours, the threat actor is using the same employee's login ID in the same region where the employee is expected to be. I don't know if you understand my
yeah.
How do you detect such threats?
So
the fact that in the same region as the employee.
Correct. Now, that is why in these sign-in logs, right, you have a number of filters, right, which you can use to, if you can see my screen, you have filters which you can use to review these logs, right? You can use it to find out information about this sign-in session and so on, right? Now, if we're reviewing this and what we have selected here, you have status, which I told you will show if the login was successful or unsuccessful, right, from that IP address. Now, sometimes you would also, bad actors, of course, they don't know the password off the top of their head, right? So you would most likely see a couple of attempts from that location that will be unsuccessful. First things first, right? Now, even if they're in the same location, their IP address is going to be different. Correct? So we're looking at not only location, but we're also looking at IP address, and then we're cross-checking it with the status to know what, okay, this IP address, this location, successful. This same IP address, before that time it was successful, has had maybe 4 or 5 unsuccessful attempts. That is enough for you to look deeper, right? And contact the person, the identity, right? And find out more information. Oh, were you trying to sign in? It will also show you the time, right? I think, yeah, it shows you the time that that signing occurred. When under date here, I think it shows you date and time. So you are able to use that to narrow down and review further and decide which case will require further investigation and which case will not require as much investigation as possible. So you are using not just location, you are using a combination of all the information which you can find here that can help you to narrow down and confirm that this user is the right user that is supposed to be accessing this resource. Does that answer your question, Babafemi?
Yes, it answered my question. But according to what you just said, it simply means we have to check almost immediately the timing is taken up.
No, so you can, I said you can set up alerts, right? You can set up alerts that will notify you if there is an unsuccessful attempt at signing in. Now, when you set up those alerts and it alerts you as an admin, once you see the email, it prompts you to investigate further. Now, in investigating further, as I said, to answer your question, you are using a combination of all of this information, not just the location alone. So as you're scrolling, as you're looking at IP address, you're looking at location, you're looking at status. Those are the 3 main ones, but there are other filters here which you can use to know. You can put operating system. The IP address can never be the same. First things first, right? But okay, let's say you are thinking, oh, this person, maybe the person is using a different internet provider or something that's giving it a different IP address. You are looking at operating system, right? Because you know the operating system that is general across the organization to try and narrow it down, right? And then you're looking at other things, device. I think there's a device here. Let's see. Agent. Okay, not device. Yeah, you're looking at device browser, though, not the device itself, but the device browser. You can use these things to also narrow down. So it's just depending on the organization and also at the time of investigation, what are you looking at? You're looking at where that person is. You're able to narrow down to know if that person accessing the tenant at that point in time is supposed to do that. We have. Does that answer your question, Baba Femi? Does it clarify?
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. So I see 3 hands up. Femi, Lovina, and Richard. Richard's hand is still up, but we're going to just take a quick 5 minutes break and be back by, your time now should be 5:38. Yeah, 5:38. So we just take a quick 5 minutes break and be back by 5:43. Okay, just for you to get a glass of water or anything like that. Okay. See you guys soon.
Hmm?
Introducing the first ever Absol flavor sizzling cube.
All right, guys, welcome back. So let's come back to this. So we had two questions. We had two questions or three questions. Oh, now, Barfemi, you still have a question, or is this from before?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Let's take Lovina. Then we'll take Femi. We'll take Richard, and we'll take you, Babafemi. So, Lovina, please go ahead.
Good evening. It's not actually a question. Thank you for the class. It's on the IP address, so that you won't forget.
Okay. Oh, showing where to block the IP address?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I won't. No problem. Femi, let's have you next.
Oh, I really don't have a question, Chidiki. I was only saying that I have a tenant that has lots of sign-in logs. Just if you allow me share my screen so that people can just see what it looks like. That's
Oh,
what I was
okay.
trying to.
Okay. Just to save time, right? Is it possible for you to do a screenshot and paste it in the chat
I have a
here?
screenshot already, but I can't paste it in the chat. That's what I don't know why.
Oh,
I
you're
can't paste
unable
it.
to. Okay, then do this. Let's paste it in the WhatsApp chat then.
WhatsApp. Okay, I'll do that right away.
Yeah. All right. So that guys, you can take a look at that to have an overview of what the sign-in logs looks like. Okay. And Richard, you can go ahead with your question.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Yeah, thank you. Just want to really appreciate you. I think your section is quite interactive and practically oriented. Thank you. But I have just one question I want to ask. I could see my sign-in log here because I've been using it for some time now. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know really want to use. The location is giving me is Kachia, Kaduna, Nigeria. And I'm currently in Anambra. Couldn't remember going to Kaduna. Couldn't also remember setting my location to be in Kaduna. So my question is, does it give you arbitrary location within the country? Thank you.
Okay. Now, do me a favor and check your. Can you check on your computer? Just open a new tab and type what is my IP address, right? And let us know what location it shows.
Okay, what is my IP address? Okay, I will. Is it a private or public IP?
What location do you see on there? Sorry.
Which one? Is it the private IP or the public IP?
The public.
The public IP. Okay.
You're in what is my IP address.com, right?
Yes.
So if you scroll down, you should see where it will give you your IP address, then it will give you your IP information, right?
Okay.
So under my IP information, it will give you your ISP, your city, region, and country.
Okay. Okay.
So what does it show there?
You can continue. When I'm done with that, I will report back to you.
All right. No problem. You can also put it in the chat, and Abdullahi will also direct you for that, okay?
Okay. Okay.
All right. So let's have Femi.
Thank you once again. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
First of all, please, some of us, we don't have access to the chat. I don't know why. I would have loved to drop some things on the chat as well, rather than disturbing the class as the class is going on. So I don't know if there's something you can do to like that. So I have two questions about our past classes. So since we are still talking about identity and M365 and all. So I was trying to set up a lab. I think the class we had Emmanuel Itoje. So while trying to activate the audit log and all, so we were told to click on cloud apps and enable file monitoring. So I was unable to enable the file monitoring simply because there was no cloud app on the logs I had on that day. So I don't know. I've tried all my possibilities. I don't know if it's because I'm using the free M365 as our main platform. I don't know if that is the reason. And also on the shared service password reset platform, I'm unable to locate the SSPR group under identity as well.
All right. For the first one, right? Here's what your second question will be addressed in this class now. I'm getting to that in a couple. And the first one, what I would like you to do is you can drop the question on the WhatsApp group, right? And then you can also private chat me and we'll talk about that, okay? Just because it's referring to your previous class as well. But because of time, right? I don't want to I want to stick to what we've discussed today. And your second question is addressing what part of what we're going to discuss today. Okay?
Yes, I have gotten it. It's Richard.
Oh, okay, Richard. Can you put it in the chat? Are you able to type in the chat? Are you able to type in the chat?
No, I have not. I just wanted to read it out, but if you want me to put it in the chat, I will. But what is showing me is showing me my IP address detail. It shows me my location, state/region, Anambra, country, Nigeria. So it's not telling me anything about Kaduna State here.
Okay. All right, no problem. We'll take a look at that. Because I'm trying to move fast, we are pressed for time. We have a very short time left, Richard. I may not be able to devote that time into going over that with you, but I understand what you're saying. And that is why I asked you, because most times, right, your service providers, they use so many different geolocations. You might be using MTN, you're browsing, you're in Lagos, but yeah, and then your IP is showing you a different state and so on. So most times it's from your ISPs, okay? But please just reach out to us in the chat and we'll take a look at that, okay?
It's okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Baba Femi.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. He has asked his question already. I think we can go ahead.
Okay, you can put your hand down. All right. Okay, guys, to breeze through this real quick, please do pardon me if we take a couple of minutes after the 2 hours designated for this. I know we are all very busy, okay? But I'll try not to take much of your time and we'll continue tomorrow as well. So in the identity here, we've looked at the first three, which is overview, audit logs, and sign-in logs, right? Here, you can, as I said, right, alerts can be set up for failed sign-ins. Guys, please, Abdullahi, can you give me a minute, please? Please let me get my door, please.
Yes,
Okay.
please. Yes,
right,
please. Chinke, go ahead. So, guys, yeah, while Chinke is away, let me try to explain some things. Maybe we'll be able to spill over by 10 minutes. I don't know if that's allowed, but maximum we can go is maybe 15 minutes extra if that is you are that time. But based on what we have discussed so far, and I believe some people have raised questions, especially around IP address and multiple access or from bad actors trying to use the same location, VPN and what have you. Before Chinke come back quick about somebody saying Kachia Kaduna is from MTN. I work in Europe and sometimes I'm the cloud engineer and a cloud architect for my company. We have an employee working from Nigeria, from Enugu, I think, Matthias, but I know when I observe his signing logs, I usually sometimes see Kachia, which I know I'm from the north in Nigeria, but I know he's not accessing it from Kaduna, Kachia. Kachia is even close to my state, but he's in Enugu working. Well, his IP is showing Kachia, Kaduna State, Nigeria. So sometimes it's Microsoft trying to translate your IP geolocation based on what MTN is giving them, but they are not translating it correctly. So it has to do with Microsoft. The Microsoft solution that is translating those IP addresses into location, especially for Nigeria, is not yet accurate. But if you move to Europe or America, it translates your IP address accurately to your location and city. But for Nigeria, they are still trying. Maybe MTN is not really giving them the right geolocation, but sometimes it will show, yes, Enugu or Anambra or whatever. So, Richard, don't take it too hard, right? That is showing, it is showing Kachia where you are in Anambra. For VPN, for someone that is asking about VPN, I want you guys to know something. If you are working for a company, you don't use your VPN. Company gives you their own VPN. When they employ you, they onboard you, they set up their VPN. What we usually do is we set that VPN to connect to the office network. And if you connect to the office network, the VPN will now assign a static IP to you that is similar to anybody connecting to that office. So you can't say you are using your own VPN. That's why your location is showing Nigeria, where you are supposed to be showing is supposed to be showing Florida or Houston, Texas. If you're a company in you are working for a company in US and your address is supposed to be Houston in Texas or Florida, and now it's showing Anambra, Nigeria, or showing Kachia, bro, you are not using their VPN. You are using your own VPN, and that is already a compromise. If I see that, I'll definitely block you. Companies usually give you their VPN, which we set it to static, so that it will pick a certain IP address that is mapped to that location. In fact, in conditional access policy, we usually blocks all location or certain locations that we know they are risky. They are for example, my company, we do block Russia, we do block China. So in some companies, they have some certain countries that they block IPs from. If you are accessing from an ISP from that location, you're automatically blocked. I don't know if Chinke is back, but that's what I want you to understand about VPN. You don't use your personal VPN for a company. A company usually has set their VPN for you. Different company has their own VPN that they do, but what the VPN does is it connects or tunnel you to the company's on-premise network so that you have a fixed IP. So your IP will never change from what they know, or your location will not change from what they know. So that's what Chinke is trying to tell you. Someone is supposed to be working in US, in Florida, and is showing Lagos, Nigeria. Definitely it's a compromise. It's a compromise. What other question is it before Chinke comes back? What other question? All right, Chinke is back already, so maybe.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about setting that you can also set up alerts. You can see field sign-ins. I won't go into how to set up those alerts today, right? I'll just give you an overview, and I will, if you take a look at the Explore Identity documentation as well, you will see more about setting up those alerts and so on. And you can also get guidance in here as well, okay? And next, you can also assign roles to an identity. For instance, this identity here, you can see has this role assignment of global administrator.
We can't see your screen, Chinke.
Oh, sorry.
Actually, we can see the screen. If you can't see the screen, you need to, okay, go ahead, Chinke, and reshare, but I don't think it's issue from Chinke.
Yeah, we can see it now. Yeah, I can see it now.
So
Okay.
it's your network.
All right. So you can assign different administrative roles as well from in here, and you can assign them to administrative units. If you have administrative units, you can add them to groups as well, and you can see applications that they have been given consent to access and so on. And you can see their Entra licenses as well in here. You can see this has an Azure Active Directory Premium P1 in here as well. And you can see the devices linked to this user's account. And if they have a device that is joined to their Entra ID directory, you'll see it in here, as well as Azure role assignments. And in terms of zero trust, you can also see the authentication methods here. Now, for a user, I'll give you a quick example. For a user who is in your organization, has MFA set up, let's say through the Authenticator app, right? And the user loses that phone and is unable to log into their accounts because they don't have the phone or the device to access that MFA. As an admin, you can come in here to the identity, come to authentication methods, and then you can require re-registration of that multi-factor so the user can register it again. Okay. All right. So that's that. Then let us come here real quick. So I believe we've talked about what an identity is within the admin center and the things that you can derive from the identity of a user. Now, why I didn't go into much into creation of these users and creation of groups and so on is because I am presuming that you guys have already been taught how to create users here, right? Now, creating a user in the Entra is basically the same thing. You can create a user from here. If you come, when you're logged in to the Entra, you come to users, you can create a new user from here, and you can create a group as well from in here. Now you can also create security groups from here. You can create dynamic groups. Now, dynamic groups are the ones that you set that once you create a new user, if the user meets a certain criteria, they'll automatically be added to that dynamic group. So a dynamic group updates its membership by itself, right? And in here as well, you have privileged identity management. More of that will be in the URL. Now, this class, of course, we cannot cover everything in Entra in this class. No. But what we're doing is giving you a very good head start in terms of how the Entra operates so that you will not be scared of tomorrow. If you need to go into the admin center, you can go in there with confidence because you know what to look out for, how to probe an identity, make sure that there's no hanky-panky going on with that identity as well. That is what we're practically doing. Now, also, I would like to go to talk about centralized and decentralized identities, right? So there are different ways to model an identity in the organization, right? A centralized model will give you all users and all apps they stay in one directory, right? It's simple, manageable, and consistent, right? But some organizations leverage decentralized identity where users control their own credentials to access resources, right? It doesn't give a centralized platform for you to, a centralized model for you to manage these users, right? They are managed without having that central, and it gives the users more autonomy. Like it allows them to determine certain verifiable things about their own user account. Now, in terms of that, to explain it further, Entra ID is a centralized directory because you are managing everything from in there. Now, but for personal accounts, right, a personal Microsoft account, that is a decentralized identity because the user is the one managing their account. It's not being managed in a centralized place, right? So that is like a difference between decentralized and decentralized model. Now, what's the Entra ID? We're talking about identity services within Entra, right? What Entra ID actually provides is core directory service, just like what we're talking about, a centralized directory, holding users, groups, devices. Then there's external identities, right? The business to business collaboration, which lets external guests access resources within your organization securely. So, for instance, you can share a file from your SharePoint document library with you are in organization A and you have a vendor in organization B, and you have a document you want to share from your SharePoint library to that user in organization B. That user can access that document if you grant them access as an external identity. Thereby, you're protecting the documents in your organization, making sure that it's not leaving your organization. And then that person is able to come into your organization as an external identity, access it, get whatever information they need, and leave without actually taking that data away from your organization. So that's basically how that works. And in terms of licensing, we've talked about the Entra Premium P1, Entra Premium P2, and how it unlocks longer days for the audit logs and sign-in logs, as well as other features within the Entra ID Admin Center. So on top of all of this, Entra offers governance as well, like access reviews, privileged identity management, helping you manage identities at a scale, and so on. And then breaking down the types of identities, you have member users. That's a type of identity. Those are the native users created directly in your Entra ID tenant, right? Then there are guest users. external people like vendors who need access, and you can create them in Entra using whatever their organization email is. You can use that. And then next you have service principals, right? These are identities used by applications. Service principals are identities used by applications, resources. They are used for automation as well, some automation tools for voice over IP. You can as well use those service principal accounts for that, and also for migrations as well. You can use the service principal accounts. Now, also you have hybrid identities, whereby we have also discussed that, where you have the on-prem Active Directory accounts synced to the cloud and having a presence, an on-prem identity having a presence on the cloud as well, is called a hybrid identity. Now, these are the identity types, right? And depending on the purpose of that identity, depends on what you're creating, right? If it's an actual person in the organization, you're creating a member user. If it's a guest or a vendor, you're creating a guest user. If it's an application or you're using it for automation, you create a service principal account. And when you synchronize from on-prem, it's a hybrid identity. Now, talking about authentication also, looking at we've looked at authentication in terms of zero trust. We've looked at it in terms of protecting the user. Authentication is basically just proving who you are. And in Entra ID, it allows you to do so using password or MFA or passwordless methods, right? For instance, if you're using a Windows laptop, I'm sure you must have heard of Windows Hello, where you can use facial recognition or your fingerprint ID to authenticate yourself. The list is growing. I mean, this is what we have now, and I bet you in the next 5 years, there will be more authentication methods possibly available as well that will improve the process of authentication for the digital space. There's also the self-service password resets, which allows users to reset their passwords without having to create a ticket to reset it. Now, in the old days, yeah, once you need a password reset, you need to call IT and just pray that the person that is on IT help desk is not eating amala at that point in time, because if the person is eating amala, you will wait. And now Microsoft has made that easier by allowing you to do a self-service password reset by yourself. I'll just quickly show us where that is. So when you go into the Entra Admin Center, right, you have on the left pane here under Entra ID, these are the things you have here. And you can drop down Entra ID and go to password reset. And here you can enable self-service password reset. Now, enabling this will mean that everyone in the organization is able to reset their passwords if they forget it or they get locked out for any reason. Now, you can also choose selected here, meaning that you're selecting just a handful of people that will be able to perform a self-service password reset. Now, everything is depending on your organization and what policies have been set in your organization, right? That will determine if users are able to reset their passwords themselves, or they need to contact you so that your organization keeps a track of that as well. Now, also just briefly, I'll show you here the authentication methods here under Entra ID allows you to set, so these are those other authentication methods we're talking about here, and you can set in here what you want enabled, you can see Microsoft Authenticator is enabled for all users and yes, and passkey is no. So you can decide what you want to enable. Some organizations, they give you a YubiKey, which you use for authentication. People that give you that YubiKey, on here, they have enabled that authentication for that organization. That's why they're able to give you the YubiKey and you can use it. So this is where all of that happens. And you have the registration campaign as well, which if it is enabled, right, you can decide what authentication method your users should register in the organization. So you can decide you want them to, for now, for registration campaign, it works only for Microsoft Authenticator, right? So if you want all the users in your organization to only use Microsoft Authenticator, then you can enable this registration campaign, right? And you can allow set days that it is allowed to snooze. Now, some of you, when you create a new tenant and you try to log in on an incognito browser, you see it tells you set up Authenticator app, set up your authentication through your Authenticator app, or allow for 14 days or 7 days, or depending on what the organization sets. Now, that's what we're talking about. That's the registration campaign. And also in authentication strengths, these are built in as well. Because of time, I'm not going to go in depth into all of them. But I've shown you this, and I know there's one more thing I'm supposed to show. I'll come back to that. But yeah, we've talked about authentication, list privilege. We've already discussed that previously, and we've discussed the auditing, the sign-in logs, audit logs, risk events, and SIM integration. Now, you can export logs from Microsoft Purview, from Azure Sentinel into Entra for review, right? For you to review and for you to see how this works. Abdullahi, yeah, I'm looking at the time. Just give me maximum of 10 more minutes, okay? And we'll be done.
Sure,
But you can, yeah. So you can export logs from these applications to Entra for you to review them. Basically, checking these logs, seeing what is risky and what is not risky, right? We've talked a lot about security of the identity, so I won't go deep into SIM integration, no. But if you go through that document, I'd like, please, can you also provide in the chat for them the Explore Identity Microsoft Learn documentation as well for those that don't have it?
Okay, I think if they scroll on the chat, this is up there, but let me share again.
Okay, all right, thanks. Yeah, so identity protection, we have discussed that in terms of basic practices for identity protection. I've shown you how to protect from compromised accounts, right? What steps to take and so on. And in terms of determining the risk threshold for the organization, it differs for different organizations. As I said, what is most important is for you to understand the foundational concept, right, of these things so that you can build on it no matter where you find yourself, what organization or whatever their policies are. You know what to look for in a sign-in log, in an audit log, and you can build from there. Okay. Creation and managing of users in Entra, we've discussed that as well. So we've talked about Entra Connect. That's the tool that is used to synchronize from on-prem to the cloud, as well as the cloud sync, which will sync those on-prem users directly. All you just need is to have the identity of the administrator on premise. Okay. Now, I will share this PDF as well in the WhatsApp group chat. But before we round up and take final questions, I wanted to show you the IP address which you get from the sign-in logs, right? For a user, and you want to block that IP address. So you come to your M365 admin center home here, and then you come over here to security and compliance. On the left pane here, under admin centers, okay? So you come to email and collaboration, and you come to policies and rules on the left pane. Then you go into threat policies, right? And then you go into anti-spam policies, and you click on, so I think for IP address, so pardon these other ones, the things that you see here are the ones on default, right? You have the anti-spam inbound policy, connection filter, and outbound policy. So for IP address, you click on the connection filter policy, where you can either allow or block an IP by editing the connection filter policy and adding the IP address ranges in here, okay? So once you do that and save, it will block or allow the IP address which you have stated in there. So I hope that answers that question for that person. So we'll stop here for today. I'll take any final questions before we end the class. Is there anyone that has any question?
Chinke, you have killed it today. I don't think there's any questions. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So, guys, I'll see you again tomorrow, and we'll pick up from where we left off. Oh, Aminat has a question. Yeah, Aminat, go ahead.
Okay, good evening. Thank you for the session. Yes, my question is, when you set up MFA for users as an administrator, you're supposed to be able to see the numbers that the user registered. But when you go to authentication, I could see that you can only see the last two numbers without using PowerShell or something. One should be able to see it from the GUI, but it's not. You can't see the full phone number.
So here, right? This is where you're talking about. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I think that's what she's.
This is where you're talking about, right?
I
You're
believe that's what
saying
she's
that.
talking about.
Yeah, but I don't have. Let me see if there's a user here. The phone number. Let's see. Okay. I don't have anyone now with a user that has a number.
So what I don't understand in Amina's question is, if she can see it, is it that she can't see the phone number fully, or
She's
she's
saying
seeing
that
some
she
phone
can't see
number?
the full phone number. But to the best of my knowledge, it does show you Sorry, guys.
Yeah,
Sorry.
as an admin in my organization, I have access to those phone numbers. I usually see them. I don't understand what she meant by her question, actually. Anyway, we still have Chinke tomorrow for tomorrow's session. So if you have any question, we can carry it over to tomorrow and answer some of the questions. But we'll still stick to 2 hours time by tomorrow for tomorrow's session as well. Chinke, we can round it up for now. Yeah. Yeah, muted, Chinke.
You're muted, Chinke.
Sorry, guys. Thank you, Abdullahi. Thank you. Yeah. Mama Femi, you can put your question in the WhatsApp chat. I'll be looking on there as well, and I'll be answering questions on there if you have any for some time before I get on with my day. Sorry we couldn't take all your questions all at once, but please join us again tomorrow and we'll continue in this session and hopefully have a good time as well. I hope you guys enjoyed today. I hope it was interactive and I hope I was able to answer your questions to the best of my knowledge as well. Okay.
You did.
Thank you very much, Chinke. And we have the attendance and feedback. We have the attendance and feedback link on the chat. Please go ahead and fill it, and we'll definitely do our best to utilize your feedback. Thank you, Chinke, and see you tomorrow. Really a splendid session today.
Thank you, guys.
Please, can you resend it?
Okay, on the chat.
Okay.
It's on the chat, but let me resend it again. No worries.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Bye.
Emmanuel, you can pause this the recording if you are still on the session.
Haladu.
You can pause the, yeah, you can pause this the recording, Emmanuel. Or let me see if I can do that myself.
Haladu, sorry, is our class, is it the same time tomorrow, right?
Yes, the same time tomorrow, guys.
Okay.
From
Right,
4 to 6. Yes, you're welcome, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Can't stop the recording.
Sorry, I don't think the link you sent is for the attendance. It's still navigating me to the Teams call. So
the link I shared is a form.office.com.
yeah, it's not opening the form. It's taking me directly to this meeting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I'm having the same issue.